inside, and I imagine, oh, as I go down like this, it feels like my breastbone goes back. So my heart sort of goes down and rests back against the vertebrae, which are curving and also going back. So I'm kind of going back and in and down. And there's a moment where the head can really take over. So I just let it rock. If you're bothered in the neck from an injury, don't force anything. But I can feel that I'm kind of really sitting on the diaphragm and the top of my, I don't know, my belly. So I just let that be like that. I just notice. So look, here we are doing a front bend. We do this millions of times a day, but notice how many layers and densities and things start to rest on each other and kind of lean into each other and compress. And this is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's not just my spine bending forward or my breastbone touching my hand going down and back. There's a whole world of intelligence that can do this all together in symphony and loves to do it and needs to curl up like this. Now I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to just put it up my back. You don't need to go far. Put it up my back. So now I have a counterpoint back there. And I'm just going to start to open my back, my vertebrae, the skin of my back. I'm just going to start to open that hand against that part of my body back there, against my hand back there. And to me, it feels like I'm going up and forward. And now my sternum is also, my breastbone is going up and forward. See, so it's like your hands are pouring a world of information. It's a conversation with another part of you that's moving, and it's not me giving you shapes and telling you to move more or less or deeper. But so the whole front layer and the whole back layer have moved in this down and back or up and forward. And the things inside now, to me, it feels like they've decompressed and they are, lengthening in relation to each other. So there's space front to back hasn't really increased too much, but up down has. I feel like I'm getting longer. And then again, the head can take over. So if you let it really lean back, you'll feel it has an impact in the upper part. Maybe your fingers can reach up, high up there, but don't strain anything. It's more about the middle. Yeah, and my tail, my squirrel's tail, I can feel this has gone all the way down. And you can be very alive in your feet and yeah. Wonderful. If we were by a river, we could be doing this movement and picking up pebbles with our toes. Or you could be doing that you could be saying your rosary with your toes. Or if you had to count something in your home, like you had decided you were going to count how many knitting needles or pieces of cutlery you had while you were doing this movement, you could be counting away, maybe even writing with your toes. So the foot can be really alive, and my hands are. And now my front hand is going to be warm and heavy. So I'm using touch and I'm using weight as I come around. Don't do the shape. And we come forward. Yeah, adjust with your arms, if it's tiring, just come forward. And let's imagine that the breastbone wants to rest all the way down against the tailbone. So it's like the tailbone and the breastbone. Don't hurt yourself, don't force anything. It's like they want to come very close and touch cheeks, which is forbidden these days. So might as well have the breastbone and the tailbone doing it. And then I touch with my back hand. This time I'm going to kind of scratch my vertebrae with my fingernails, and I'm going to waken and start to bring the vertebrae up and forward, the breastbone up and forward. If I drop my arms now, as I come up into extension, into a back bend, I'm just going to naturally allow my arms to turn out. Right up into the armpits and right up over the cuff of the shoulder. So some of us might be here, so you want to make sure that this is opening. Yeah. Huge opening across the front, right up. And then let's see, if you don't throw your head too far back too quickly, let's see if this opening can kind of travel up into the lining of the throat and the front of the spine here, especially where the tissue, the visceral tissue, goes under the clavicles and where the lungs are attached to their suspensory ligaments. It's right up here. And mostly, we just don't move here at this joint where the arm attaches via the clavicle to the sternum. So just letting that open. Open. And then as you open, we won't be too long, just let the mouth hang open. And the tongue is part of the opening. The tongue. So the whole thing opens and we let the tongue be heavy, and we can even reach up a little with the tongue. The last bit of opening. And then don't rush back. Don't have any idea about how you come back. Just come back and notice. You may notice lots of different asymmetries as you come back. As you come back, as you start to think, oh yeah, everything's on top. And this time, without the hand on the breastbone, it's just the whole head that starts to go forward. From as high up as you can. The forehead is heavy, the eyebrows are heavy, the brain is heavy. And that begins to make spaces at the very top, where the top two vertebrae form a pair of support. Yeah, and the jaw is hanging off, and the eyeballs are hanging off, and the face mask is hanging off, and the tongue and the lip. And now it's traveling down the neck. And now we start to have the clavicle and the ribs and the breastbone. The imaginary is a huge part of moving and beginning to have accidents of perception and delightful surprises and possibilities of moving in other ways. Yeah, which is different from thinking and shaping. Keep going down. And there is a moment where you just don't let it stop you curling, but you put your elbows on your thighs, your feet are away, and you let the bend travel all the way down. And there's a kind of sliding forward. Sliding forward of the elbows. Could touch your head, touch your ears, and just allow the knees on the leg and the head in the hands, don't squeeze. Just to allow your spine, your column, your river, your organs to discover the richness of this front bending and back bending. The antlers are pouring out, the tail is really dropped under. And then if it works for you, if this is your limit, just stay there. If it's fine, just drop through so that your torso starts to rest on your thighs, your arms hang off. Yes. So we have the legs and we have the ankle area and the foot and the yawn. Wonderful. Feel the weight. Where has the water poured to now? Then one hand on the knee, other hand on the knee. Don't do this with your back. Do it with your hands and arms. Stay heavy and curled and just push yourself back, letting things roll against each other. It's such a profound movement, what we're doing. Very profound, and it's not even that passive. As we come up, as we come up, as we come up, come up. And then as you start to feel that the breastbone is lifting and the ribs are turning and lifting, just let your arms come up. Don't widen them too much. Keep them relatively close. Yeah. And as you go up, feet are awake, sit bones are awake, pelvic floor is awake, underneath of toes is awake, belly is awake, spine is awake, muscles, everything is rising and lifting and opening. The arms come towards each other, and the back bend, this fountain that's going up and open, is rising up the spine, and you let it rise up. And then you allow, if you want to add a little bit, you can allow the elbows to bend a bit. You'll see that it challenges parts of the arm, and let the breath breathe in. You'll notice that there can be a kind of a wave. There's a kind of a wavy movement that takes you further and further up the spine. You don't really need to do it. It's doing you. Doing you. There's a world of micro movements hidden within this stick. It's like if you take a piece of rosemary branch and it looks dead and hard, and you put it in the ground because you want it to grow, and then it makes roots and it turns green and it comes alive. And that's what we're doing right up through. Challenge the upper spine and then come back down. Hooray is all I can say right now. Hooray, 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 hooray. So just see what your body wants to do and breathing. I feel like my eyesight has changed, and you know, very nice. Notice the world around you, if this is your living room or your practice room or somebody else's home. Or just notice the world around you, the colors, the changes of tone, light and shadow. Wonderful. And the head is going down. Don't repeat the movement, just do the way it is now. Let yourself follow now the weight of the head. The whole spine is turning. The ribs are moving. The knees are dropping straight down into the feet. The elbows are resting on the thighs. We go forward with the elbows to the knees. Very curved, and then letting the arms drop around and really feeling that you're resting
sit bones very much on the chair, but you're resting onto the feet. Now, we're going to drop the arms through the middle. If it's helpful to have a look, you might want to have a look. So, and go easy with this movement, but we're not going to go back the way we came, which is this way, okay? Rolling back up. We're going to do a movement which is very loved by the spine, but we do very little of. We're going to reach away with the hands, very awake in the feet. As far as you can, watch me. Now, instead of lifting this way, I let the extremities, the periphery, so the hands go up much more than the spine. And then eventually the spine follows. So it's a radical movement up. Radical movement up, and then you open, and then the hands drop on the head and slide down the face and the chest and the belly and along the thighs, and you drop through the legs. And I'm just sliding off my chair, and then the hands go forward. You're very much on your feet, and your hands take your spine. Let your spine follow. So you make a back bend way down there as the living fingers take you up, and the whole spine bends, and the hands come down all the way down the front of the body, and I slide through, and I drop through. And if you can come forward off the chair, do it. If you have to kind of get up and come forward, do that, but just come to here and drop forward. So just drop through onto the lower leg, toes to knee on the floor. So we're going to completely rest the spine in this front bend. You can let the head rest on the hands. I find that's always a very good place to start, but you're all different, so do whatever is comfortable. And I'm just taking a moment to let my whole belly area and my whole chest lung area lean into itself and kind of be compressed. So I'm having a little osteopathic moment here, where I'm letting the whole visceral space of the body fold and fold and fold and fold on itself. And the breath comes in and out, moving everything around. It's wonderful. So I think, I can't remember if it was last time or the time before, but various times we've talked about, having support. So if that just isn't good for you because it makes your back hurt, or you can't breathe, or you have eye pressure issues, or anything that where this just doesn't feel right, you can do exactly the same here. Just use a chair or your couch. If you've never done this, you can try it. It's really different. Helpful. Yeah. And like we did, if that doesn't work at all because you can't kneel, then this is very good right here. This is very good. If you're a lot at the computer and you have knee problems and you can't get to the floor, doing this every now and then is just such a good thing. Such a good thing. So I'll just give you a moment just to
So we've done this very many times because for me, it's really how yoga begins, but it's also how a little person, a baby, begins to articulate their spine. We begin to make an up-down separation, and then soon we begin to have a front bend or flexion extension movement. And later, as we develop our lower back curve, because we get off our knees and we get onto our feet, we start to have rotation. So, and in fact, very, very deep back bends and front bends are not what they seem. They really are a very deep, complex set of movements, which includes rotation of some sort, because none of us are symmetrical flat things. I mean, but okay, so here we are sitting. We've done all of that, and I hope it's brought you great joy, yogic joy. So here we're sitting, and what we're going to do is we're just going to make a small rotation. This is to my left, but it doesn't matter, whatever works for you. And don't lever, so don't pull, just don't do anything yet. Just be heavy. And then I turn to my left and I put my hand wherever, on my knee, on the chair. I look and see what I can see on my left. In fact, looking has just made my head turn a little bit more. Yeah. Now, if you look at me, you have to play with not being too far back in a front bend and not being too far forward in a back bend. Try to find a middle place. That's not really fair. Try to find a place where you feel most comfortable. But if you had to choose, I would go a little towards the back bend, the front bend, rather than the back bend, sorry, rather than the front bend or the flexion. So letting the pelvis tilt and the tail, that's it. And now we're just going to drop the hand a bit more around the knee and use whatever's there. You can use the chair or you can just push a bit more. Now don't lever again, but actually build your roots into your sit bones and free your neck like this, just a little side to side nod, so that the spine develops antler and tail as you take yourself a little further. Yeah, and it's up to you, you know, you can floss away and you can use your intervertebral toothpick to get a delicious movement going through the spine. So that's really up to you, you know. And release, the body will just want to come back of its own accord. And then we're open to the space, we put the hand across on the other side. So don't go into the shaping right away. Look, notice the light, the color of things as you go around. Then you can begin to use that hand on knee a little bit. Let yourself stay a little bit in this back bendy position as you come around using the chair or the wall or wherever you are. Yeah. And let yourself really be in the roots and really be noticing around, and coming back. Wonderful. So I'm going to go to my left, and my right arm is going to slide forward down that on the inside of my leg. So I'm going to lean forward a bit, and put my hand on my tailbone, and I'm going to go going around to the left, letting the arm kind of lean on the knee and slide forward, and letting the rotation happen. I can use this leaning place to help me, and it's nice to feel where the tail is as I come round. I should be able to look down at my big toes, look out across the room, look up, and I should be able to river away. So I want you to let the water dragon that lives in there, the contemplative water dragon, that loves water and is liquidy. Let your spine make this liquid undulating movement, and you can play with where you're touching. And eventually the arm can go up. Little undulations. Don't worry about it and don't look, because it's ridiculous. So this is just totally ridiculous. I wasn't exactly doing this movement, but I was on the tube when I lived in Chiswick. And it was afternoon, there were very few people on the train, and I was making a movement that had to do with my face and my neck. And then I forgot where I was, and it wasn't this outrageous, but it was kind of outrageous. And at one point I opened my eyes and there was this woman who was just staring at me. And she must have been, I imagine, from Georgia, because she said, "Honey, are you all right?" And I was. I said, "I am. You should be doing this too." And we had a great chat. So now we're going to go the other way. So I'm turning to my right and my left arm is sliding down, and I can use it for a bit of support, but don't lock too much in the shoulders. But anyway, do what works for you. And so I'm bending forward, I'm sit boning, and then I'm starting to, the spine is starting to turn, and I can be touching back here. I often put my hand where I think things have gone a bit wonky. And I don't do it as a kind of over-focusing, but it just brings my awareness to this, and then it's nice, I can get on with it. And I'm coming round, and then the arm floats up, and undulating, rotating, everything. Arm, or if that's too much, you can leave it here. Let the breath, let the movements happen all the way through the spine. Try not to do it with your muscles, if you know what I mean. Just let the ripple happen in the water. So you are doing, but it's more like the ripple is moving you. More like the ripple is moving you. And then we come back. Good. So okay, so if you take the chair away and so the movement we're doing now, which involves hands on the floor and so on, is a progression from the movement, the last folding and lifting movement we did. So if kneeling down is not good for you, and you can do that one, that's fine. If I've shown this before, if it's, am I in view here? So if it's difficult sitting or kneeling, you can always be at the wall like this, and you can make your spine make that movement that way, and then this way. Or walking up the wall if it doesn't bother your shoulders. So you can use kitchen counter, whatever's needed. So I'm going to be here. So we've done this many times. Yeah, so I'm just going to go forward. And I'm going to tuck the toes under and leaning back into my sit bones. I'm going to let the sit bones widen and the tail go up.
And that will immediately I can feel my spine wanting to be draped on the floor. So I let it. I let it. This is a very, very, very important, easy, safe movement in whichever variation you do it. Very, very helpful to the problems we start to develop, because most of the time we're not in this position. We're crumpling forward and disappearing into the web. So here we are like this. And you're just going to let your arms travel as far forward as they can. Now, if you come too far forward, you see here, I'm too far forward. It's okay, but this doesn't really work anymore. Just put stress on the kneecap and it's different. You want to be back from 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees. You want to be back this way. So diagonaling back that way. And then you can drop off. Likewise, if you go too far back, then the pelvis starts to tuck under, and then we're going here, which we did earlier, and we may do again, but that's different also. So you want to lean into your toes and just have enough leaning into the bum, and then letting the spine drop off. And then as the tail comes up, what happens is the sacrum, which ends about here, starts to drop forward. And then the next vertebra and the next vertebra, they all kind of start to drop forward and recover this capacity for extension. And what happens on the front of the spine is you start to get length in the deepest, deepest, deepest part of the cavities, which is the front of the back or the back of the front, between the river of organs and the river of vertebrae. And then we're going to come forward onto the elbows, and then we're going to come forward up onto the hands, toes hooking in, make whatever adjustment you need. And we're going to, I usually have to open my hands a bit, and then we come through. And now here you want to push from your toes into the base of your spine. You want to close or stabilize, bring everything together. You don't want it to just pour away. And then the spine opens up like we did in sitting, but completely different, all the way up through the tongue, through the back of the eyes, the back of the nose, into the antlers. Wonderful. And then the right heel reaches back. So now this is a rotational movement. Deep in this back bend, we have a rotation because there's an asymmetry. Only one leg is reaching back. Really reach back with the heel and reach up with the antlers, and put the knee back down and reach back with the left heel. Really reaching, really letting that open the knee. Don't worry about the shapes. Just move, just letting life move you. Let it, as you reach back with the heel, bending the toes, letting the whole spine open up through the torso, through into the neck and throat, up into the bones of the cranium and the antlers. And then we come down, and then both heels reach back. And you're incredibly long reach back with the heels, letting the deep, deep river of legs open, deep behind the knee, open up through the spine into the neck, and then put both knees down. And then you thought you were going to have a rest, but instead your bum went up. Your bum went up through the ceiling, through the roof, above the house. Wave to your neighbors as you fly up, higher and higher. The patchwork of the neighborhood seems very far away, but you feel safe flying away on your cosmic bum. It's the best thing that ever happened. And of course, as you fly up there,
your bum with your spine hanging off, you are pouring world peace onto everything. And that's what yoga is all about. Up, 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 and then come down. And then we will take a break this way. Let your knees widen, and we'll just drop through. If this is super uncomfortable, for some people it can be very uncomfortable here, then do it with the knees. Do it with the knees together. Or you can do a little bit of each. Little movements, noticing where you are, letting the breath and the weight make everything uncomplicated. It shouldn't be complicated. I mean, it's marvelous and mysterious and complex, but it doesn't need to be complicated. So hang out there for a bit. I'm just going to turn my yoga mat a little bit like that. Okay. So when you've been there for a bit, just roll over and lie on your back. So at the end of the class, when you lie on your back, it's kind of different because you've been moving and exploring. So address the things that you feel like you want to address. A bit more length, or I don't know, a bit of ease up here, a little bit of support under the head. I always find really helpful. Maybe a bit more. Yeah. Huge feet. Let me see what time it is. Huge feet, heels on the ground. Yeah. So when you fiddled a bit, come back to the sense of weight. And, you know, if you want to put your hands here or here, often I put them here because I have that issue down there. Comes up to a kind of shortness right on my bottom ribs, which pull this open. So this is, I always find this helpful and comforting. But you may want to touch your belly or your groins or just the floor. Making sure the head is really resting on the ground, so rocking it is helpful. And the breath and the sense of weight. So if your practice, your contemplative practice, your meditation practice, and your yoga, your body practice, usually along the way, we begin to notice the ways that we are negative about ourselves. And a healthy practice that is bringing us to wholeness and is taking us beyond the left, right, should I choose the black or the white part of the mind, you know, and it's bringing us to unity. The journey should be one of not of self-love and self-consciousness, but ever increasing ease with self and kind of marvel at how wonky we can be, but how marvelous and lovable we are, and how our body, even if there is a serious handicap or you live with a lot of pain, that we start to realize that the whole thing is of a whole. And then that becomes a hologram for all of us being a whole, one body, one humanity, and that we resonate with each other. So Thich Nhat Hanh often uses the term interbeing. And in my Christianity, I would say that this is the body of Christ. The cosmic Christ is this whole body of humanity, but it is the whole body of my body also, the whole of creation that moves as one and is very complex, but very, very simple, very whole, very unified. And the mind begins to not just be mired in the left, rights, but paradoxes always arising and causing us to relax into bigger spaces beyond limiting double binds. So we're just going to let the legs go one way and notice the rotation that's arising. And we're going to let the legs. Very nice doing this with the legs because of the weight of the leg. It becomes a very deep rotation on the spine with a bit of back bend, and you don't need to do anything in the back because the legs do a lot. And then we just let the arm be part of this movement. And then we go the other way. Yeah, and it's a nice way to come back. Sorry, I was here. If you just keep going, then you're on your side, and which is a whole world, which we'll spend time with, and then you can just push yourself up. So, thank you, everyone. I hope this has been helpful. I have to say, since March, when all of this lockdown started, and we started doing these things online, I've learned a lot. And I know that it's been frustrating often because of the sound or because I didn't know what I was doing. So I was waving or talking in the wrong direction and so on. But I think over time, our technology has improved. I hope soon that we'll find a mic that I can have near me when we're in bigger spaces, closer to the camera. But so all your comments are very helpful. I find them and plus it's lovely being in touch with you all. And here we are. So also if you think about it and you feel moved to make a small donation to Bonnevaux, please do. Very tiny is very helpful. It doesn't need to be every time, but when you think about it, because it does help us to continue to share this. We went into the French lockdown a few weeks ago with 5 new people from different parts of the world who have come as workaways to work with us. Really wonderful people, very, very wonderful, all coming to help and work, but also because they were interested in deepening their meditation practice. And then we had COVID in the house, so we've all had to go into isolation. And so we made a retreat of it together, and it's been a very special time. And today we had our last test, so we should all be negative and be able to get on with our lives in other ways. So wonderful. Thank you all. Bye-bye.